Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The statewide standardized test results are in, and it shows the city's public school students made big gains in math and in reading last year. The percentage of students scoring proficient or better on the English language arts exam increased by more than 7 points compared to 2024 to a little over 56%. Students also saw gains in math, with the percentage of students scoring proficient or better increasing by 3.5 points to nearly 57%. The results come as the city has launched new reading and math curriculum across the 5 boroughs. Joining me now to talk more about all of this is the city's schools chancellor, Melissa Aviles-Ramos. Welcome back to the program. So great to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You heard those numbers. The results came in. Students really showed up this year.
They sure did.
When you look at the numbers, what really stands out to you as a bright spot, a bright point?
You know, for me, this really tells us that we are on the right path. When Mayor Adams first came into office, he talked a lot about his own experiences in school and his expectation for the school system to really be a welcoming place that serves the needs of all students. And Chancellor Banks, my predecessor, he was telling everybody, we're doing all these big, bold things, but we have to stop and talk about the fundamentals because the kids are not reading. And that was really something that was important to him. I had the great privilege of serving as his chief of staff, so I was one of the key architects on his team to design this. And so what these numbers are telling us is that we're on the right path. Now, while we celebrate these numbers, right, we still see that there's a lot of work to do. And so I don't want to take away from the celebration, but this is telling us we're on the right path and there's still so much work to be done.
So how have the city's reading and math programs evolved in recent years?
That's a great question. So when we started with NYC Reads and Solves came a little bit later, our first order of business was to make sure that students had access to one of 3 curricula. And what was important about that is you shouldn't have to worry about the zip code you're in to access high quality instructional materials. That's just not acceptable. It was not acceptable to the mayor, to Chancellor Banks, and it's not to me. And so that's what we call tier 1 instruction, the instruction that everyone is getting. So everybody was getting one of 3 curriculum and they were getting that instruction in the classroom. But now the next phase of New York City Reads is focusing on those interventions. So if that tier 1 instruction isn't enough for you to access the curriculum, what are we doing when we say we're giving you an intervention? Is it standardized and high quality just as the curriculum? Is it aligned to the curriculum? So it's evolved a little bit because we knew this was a multi-phase, multi-year approach. The scores went down a little bit last year, but that was expected. Other states have tackled this work and their school districts are much smaller than ours, so it was to be expected, but we learned a lot. We focused ourselves, and as you said perfectly, our kids showed up.
When you talk about these interventions, what does that look like on a practical level? Is that pulling a student aside or giving them a little bit of extra help? How do those interventions take shape?
That's exactly right. So it could be a pulling out of the classroom, or it can actually be maybe small group instruction in the classroom. Sometimes after school tutoring happens. But what's important for us to take a look at is what that experience looks like for children. So is it actually something that's aligned to standards and aligns with the curriculum, or is it subpar instruction that's really not worthy of the kids' time? And so when we took a look at everything going on, we said, okay, now we tackled the curriculum, we expanded New York City Reads, all our K-5 students are doing it, but now we need to pay attention to the interventions. So that's really important.
This massive change, how did you get parents, students, and teachers all on board to get us to these results today?
So much engagement with everyone. And I think, you know, going back to your question about bright spots, this is really a testament to the type of collaboration that happens across all stakeholder groups. So our literacy ambassadors, our families who were trained on the science of reading and championing it, to our small businesses. I was recently Mama Sushi and Dykeman, and the owner proudly showed off her display, you know, of books there for her patrons. And then, of course, working in great partnership with our unions. I mean, Michael Mulgrew and Henry Rubio have been phenomenal partners and honest partners, right? They would tell us what are some of the implementation hiccups that are going on, but that collaborative nature was there to make this work. And I think that's made all the difference in the world.
You just mentioned Michael Mulgrew. He shouted you out, and he said that the success of, you know, these numbers would not be possible had it not been for you fighting DOE bureaucracy. What is he talking about?
Michael knows that first and foremost, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a teacher, I was a principal, but there are two hats that I'll never stop wearing, and that's teacher and mom of a New York City public school student. And so while I appreciate, the big headlines, I'm in the weeds. So I want to know what's going on in my schools. I want to talk to teachers directly. I want to talk to kids directly. And that's something that Michael does himself. Michael is very well known to his members, and together we partnered and went into the schools and figured out what was going on and how we could make it better.
Yeah, because there is always this long-term concern in New York City that there's too much attention, too many resources going to Tweed, the DOE headquarters, and not enough getting out to the school. So how have you been working to sort of shift that dynamic?
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. And so as a matter of fact, before I started working at Tweed, one of the things I said was, I don't know that I want to be there. I want to be on the ground. But the truth is that it just took us to shift the culture. And that started with Chancellor Banks, making Tweed a kind of place where educators are welcome and families are welcome. And so to me, what that means is just being connected to the folks on the ground. I can't make decisions without truly engaging with my parents, my kids, my teachers. That's just not realistic.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about today. Of course, I have to ask about the cell phone ban.
Yep.
Right? Major change coming to all New York City schools this September. No cell phones in the classrooms, bell to bell. How is this? How's the plan working, and what's this implementation going to look like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one of the reasons why Mayor Adams and I decided not to move this along sooner was because we really wanted to engage with our parents and our advocates, and so that has been phenomenally helpful. And of course, our building leaders. I was a principal who collected cell phones, so I understand the logistics that go into it. And we know that one-size-fits-all approach is not what works for a system this size. So there are one of three methods to restrict devices. So that's helpful. And more than half of our schools already have a cell phone restriction policy. So really what we did was issue a survey, connect with our superintendents and principals where this is new, and then provided targeted support to get them ready. So nothing is perfect, right? And this is a large system, and I'm the first one to always say we have to acknowledge our hiccups as they happen. But I am super confident, and the fact that we've been planning for this for a long time, I think we're going to see a fairly smooth transition.
Okay, also want to talk about class sizes. Any updates on the class size reduction plan? I know that is important for so many families, but also legally mandated to get down the size of classes in New York City. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going great because we have great partnerships with the unions. These plans that we approve to give extra money to the schools, I mean, that's huge for our schools. Again, as a principal, being able to meet these mandates without the funding is incredibly difficult. So again, always want to thank Henry Rubio and Michael Mulgrew for their great partnership.
And so the extra funding that you have to help reduce class sizes, what is that funding going towards? Is it hiring new teachers? Do you need to build more classrooms? How are you working to actually make this a reality?
Yeah, it depends on the school's proposal. So some schools needed to convert maybe large office spaces into classrooms.
Okay.
Some people needed to hire extra teachers. If you're hiring enough extra teachers, you might need a couple of extra assistant principals to support with the onboarding and the professional learning. So it looked different for schools. But the important thing is that their proposals were read, their proposals were looked over by Michael, Henry, and myself, and we all agreed on who would get approval and what funding was attached to that plan.
Sounds like there wasn't exactly a summer break for the school's chancellor this year.
No, I've been busy. I'm not bored.
It sounds like it. And we greatly appreciate you taking some time from your busy schedule to chat with us.
Always
here.
a pleasure being here.